Hi everyone, this is going to be our imaging process tutorial. I have an outline doc for all of the steps that you're going to need to take to do this, but I think seeing it visually will be a little bit more helpful. So I'm going to take it step by step and describe everything that we're doing so that you have an idea of what it looks like on the screen. The first thing that we're going to do is align the CT and MRI. So that's kind of the big first step that we're going to take. And I will do this as a part one. And then following that, I'll make sure to make a different part for all of the following steps. So to do this, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to make a folder for all of the imaging that we're going to put for this patient. So this is going to be TCH 67. And here's our file path, by the way. It can totally vary, I think, depending on your Mac or your computer, but this is how we have it set up. And I think just for the purpose of keeping it consistent might be helpful if you're able to get something somewhat similar. So this is going to be our folder. We're going to go ahead and find our MRI and CT from our OneDrive raw imaging that we've taken from PACS. So under this folder, we're going to find TCH67, the imaging folder, and then ensure that the size is from largest to smallest. So we're going to take the MRI first, which typically looks like this, AXT1 MP Rage. AX just means that it was cut in a transverse way, like the slices were axial. And then T1 is like the MRI contrast that they used. So it just makes it so that the fat appears bright and the fluid, so the CSF, is dark. MP RAGE stands for something a little long. It's magnetization prepared rapid gradient echo, which is basically just the 3D high resolution sequence. You don't really need to know any of that, but just in case you're curious, this is what that stands for. So this is going to be the MRI we want. So copy and paste this into the subjects folder for TCH67 that we just made. The other one that we're going to take is our CT. So that one has a couple of different naming conventions. Um, One that we do see is this one, Stealth Lab Brain Dr. Curry. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put that in the same folder. The one that we see more commonly, I would say, is this one. So let me take one that we have done. It looks like this. So head stereotactic, and then there's a couple of numbers here, but those are the two that we've seen. This one more so than not, but obviously every patient is different and that's okay. So we're gonna take what we've got and move forward. So first thing I'm gonna do is open up Freeview from the terminal. So that's the free server application that hopefully you have downloaded. This is, I think, version 7.2.0. Um, and we're going to go ahead and open our MRI. So file, load volume, and we're going to open this like folder icon here and then go to our subjects folder, TCH67, and we're going to open the MP Rage. Okay. So this is going to take a second to load. So we're gonna first things first, we're gonna make sure that the coordinates are at 0, 0, 0. This just helps us make sure that whenever we reopen this file, we will be editing where we left off. And it'll just center everything to where we like it to be. So what we're gonna do from here is try to align our anterior commissure to our posterior commissure. So I think it's most helpful to do this looking at the sagittal view, and we're going to look for the anterior commissure kind of by using the arrow keys on your computer to look for this little white dot. This is the anterior commissure, and we're going to try to align this to the posterior, which is right here. It looks like a V structure right here. And to do this, we're going to transform and manipulate the scan. So once again, I'm going to put this at 0, 0, 0 because I pressed around. And to be able to find, where we've just, oh, I've just clicked on it again, but this happens a lot, so that's fine. You're going to click on Tools in this top bar, Transform Volume, and then you're going to move the cursor around by translating and rotating through this manipulation here. So it's going to take a little bit of time and practice. I still get confused on which one is which. Um, and of course, the differing scans and differing views will be a little bit confusing when you're trying to move the cursor, but it just takes a little bit of time. So I'm gonna just mess around with these for a little bit and try to make sure that I'm in the right place. So when I see the anterior commissure again, which is just about here, I'm gonna keep moving. Something that helps is also looking at the other slices. So like the axial looks a little bit centered here now, more so than it did before, and then the coronal as well. I'm also gonna now move this to rotate so that we can get this cursor to be more in line with this V. So usually that means you're gonna manipulate the X direction, and I'm just gonna keep moving it so that this centered cursor is over top of this white dot here. And then when I zoom out, it should hopefully cross through this V. So I'm gonna keep moving it, lots of trial and error and time and patience. So that looks so far pretty good, I would say. Maybe move it a little bit more this way. It's looking quite good. I would say that is not far off at all. I'm actually going to go ahead and save this for now. And then there's another thing we're going to check afterwards. So I'm going to click on Save Volume As, and then click on the folder icon. Make sure I'm under Subjects, TCH67, and I'm going to call this T1.NII and take out anything else. No .gz, no .mgz, and just leave it at that. And then save, click OK. And there's a blue bar down here that shows whenever it is completely saved. So you'll wait to make sure that that is done. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the eyes. That will help us also see if the scan is coming in too early from the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, for example, and it'll just give us a better give us a better alignment, pretty much. So gonna wait for this to be saved, and we will zoom out and try again. So now I can exit out of this. I can exit out of this actually, and I want to make sure that it was saved right. So I'm going to actually reopen and reload the volume. So click on the folder icon again, subjects, TCH67, and then T1. So I just want to make sure it looks good. Click OK. And then whenever I put the RAS coordinates back to 0, 0, 0, it should be where I left off. Perfect. So it is. Great. So now I'm going to look at the axial view, and I'm actually going to just click on the cursor and move with the arrow keys. And what I'm looking for is that the eyes are coming in at the same time and that they are pretty much even, which it does look like. It kind of looks like it's a little bit off in this particular scan. I will say this is something that you should pay attention to with each patient because, for example, this patient does have an artifact and a couple of other things going on that might impact the way that the brain is shaped or looks on the scan. So I think that the scan of the eyes makes it look like they're coming in at the same time, which is great. I do feel like it looks a little bit lopsided, but that could also just be the anatomy of this individual's brain. So it's a little bit tricky because it looks as though there's not really a great symmetry here. So I'm going to take a look at the coronal view as well. I guess I can show you as well for your own information about the eyes if you did happen to see that they were not coming in at the same time. So, for example, like I can move these back and forth. So this is the Y direction, but let me show you a little bit earlier on. So here, um, when the eyes are first coming in, which is right about here, um, you can see how it could shift to either side when you manipulate this degree, but I think it doesn't look too far off as it normally is. So that is good. The other thing is the X is usually what we would look at if there was something off about the rotations. I'm going to keep this the same. Z is like helpful, is helpful when you're rotating towards the left or the right. So I actually think this is quite good how it is. So not an excellent example of a super difficult case, but because this brain is a little bit abnormal, it is it is good for how how it is anatomically, I would say. So, I mean, this looks pretty in line. I'm going to zoom out just a bit to see how it looks. But it looks like it's quite well placed down the middle. Now it looks a little bit off here, so I'm going to retry to look at the sagittal to make sure. But maybe perhaps rotating it a little bit to the right side. Let's take a look. It's a lot of trial and error, so this takes a little bit of time. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Actually, this would be the Z, maybe like this. I would say 1 degree or 1.5 degrees. And if I zoom out, does that look like it's down the middle? I think it does. I would be happy with that. So one more time, I'll take a look at the eyes, make sure that they look even, which they do. It's a little hard to tell sometimes, but I think this looks quite good. I'd be happy with this. Okay, so one more time, I'm gonna make sure sagittal and coronal look good. See how there's like a bit of an artifact here. It's quite disruptive in that it can be a little tricky to see the symmetry, which is fine. Obviously, every patient's going to be different, so make sure you're cognizant of that. But this looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and save this out. And now, because I'm really happy with this one, make sure under TCH67, I'm going to make a new folder called ACPC. This is what will be used in our recon. And this is where we want our T1 to be ultimately that we're happy with. So I'm going to save this in this folder, click OK, and then wait for this blue bar to be done. And then the next part of this is to pretty much just overlay our CT on top of this and make sure that it is perfectly in line with whatever we've created here from the MRI. So once this saves out, I'm going to load our CT that we've taken as well from the raw imaging and manipulate that in the same way where I transform the volume and make sure that the eyes are in line, the head and the bones and the anatomy in general look like they're pretty much in the right spot. So show you how to do that, and that will be the end of what we do in FreeSurfer. And then there is a little bit of code which we have written out in our OneDrive document. And then that will allow us to prepare and get the recon started. So this is saved. I'm going to exit out and reopen it one more time to make sure that that is what I was happy with. So subjects, TCH67 once more. Oh, no, not that one. See, there we go. I made the mistake. ACPC, I want this one. So I'm going to open that, click OK. And then make sure I have this at 000 and that it looks like I left it. Perfect. So now I'm going to load volume again, going to subjects, and I'm going to open the CT. So that's the one that's not the AXT1 in PRH. So open. This time I'm going to change the color map to heat. That way it's a little bit easier to see. And I'm going to wait for that to load. So it's not on the screen, which is perfectly fine. We are going to pretty much just move that to the center. So translate and move center to current cursor location. That's how we're going to see it. Sometimes it just depends on how they do the imaging, and oftentimes Free Surfer takes a little bit of manipulation as well. So I'm actually going to save this how it is, even though it's definitely not aligned, just so that we can re-manipulate some of these numbers when it's at 0 and recalibrated. So I'm going to save this as ct.nii, take out the MGZ, and save this into the TCH67 folder. This is also going to take a little bit. Usually the CT takes a little bit longer to save than the MRI, so I'm going to wait for this blue bar to be done. And then we're going to go ahead and look at these landmarks. You can already tell this is quite off from this axial view because this is where the eye sockets should be, and there are no eyes. So we're going to make sure that those are properly aligned in just a moment. But this will also take a lot of manipulation with the same tool here, the transform volume tool. So let's wait for that to save out. This will take a little bit. The CT is a bigger file, so it will be a little bit longer when you save things out. But here we go. So take this out. I'm going to exit out of this once more, reopen what I've just saved. So load volume, subjects, and the ct.nii. Open. I want heat. Oh, I clicked it. And then okay. So now this should be slightly overlaid, still off, but overlaid. I'm going to put this in the axial view actually, and then tools, transform volume. Now see how it's recalibrated. It'll just be easier to move around. So there's going to be a couple things here. So I'm going to try to move this in a bunch of different directions so that you can see what I am looking at and what I'm toggling. But firstly, I want to make sure that this is somewhat overlaid, at least with the brain for the most part, and it looks like it's still quite off, which is fine. So there we go. I'm also looking at, oh, sorry, I'm covering one of the other views, but I'm also looking at some of the other sections and slices so that you can kind of see a little better. I'm gonna toggle my cursor so that I can actually see where the eyes come in, because that will help me encapsulate them a little bit better. Not with this one, but with this one. So in the rotate, we're gonna start to see where the eyes come in, and I'm wanting to best encircle those. So this will, again, take a lot of trial and error and some time. Still kind of off. See how there's some negative space here. The nose isn't in line, so can move those around. Oh, still rotate. Should be more in the Y. Perhaps like this. That looks better already. Oh, but see how this one kind of starts a little bit sooner. So I think this is a Y problem, and it is. Okay. Not here. Maybe here. See how one of them has the bone covering, one of them doesn't? That shouldn't usually be the case unless one of them um, comes in first. Should not be true. So it's still kind of off. I'm gonna keep manipulating, but it's getting there. This part definitely takes a little bit of time. There we go. This is looking a little bit better. I also like to use the space here next to the eyes. Kind of helps get a sense of where these little edges should be. I think still a little bit uneven, which is fine. Let's do maybe one more. Maybe like 0.5. Sometimes I also manually input the numbers. That's a little bit better. Okay, so far it's looking quite good. Okay, perhaps moving this up a little bit would be useful. So let me translate this, or maybe this way. Let's see. I think when you center the eyes, the rest are a little easier to fall into place, but it's still not perfect, and that's okay. We'll keep working. Another thing is here, these are off. Okay, it's a little bit better. This is coming in a little late, I think. So we'll go ahead and, oh, this is the wrong one. Keep messing. It's looking a little bit better already, but still a little bit off, so you can see. So we're gonna keep trying. Also helps once you scroll through the entirety of the brain as well. Okay. Keep on going. Also, these yellow dots are the contacts from the electrodes. So that's how we're going to measure what the coordinates are for the palm registration later on. I'm going to make sure this is a little bit more even here. Might be, there we go. And this is looking quite a lot better, I think. Here we go. So now it looks like they come in at the same time. It's encapsulating the eyes. Everything else is within boundary. I would maybe shift it a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, about there. See how these fit into the sockets that we were looking at earlier now, and everything else looks like it's encapsulated a little bit better. I would say maybe this needs to be shifted once more. Maybe like -2 here. There we are. I'm going to go ahead and save this out and then reopen and make sure it looks good. I clicked yes to override it because we are replacing it with the better version now. So this step can definitely range in time. Sometimes it's really easy and everything aligns anatomically really well within a few minutes, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer if it looks a little bit off or you need to redo the MRI, and just definitely varies. So far so good though. This is all we're gonna need to do in Freeview. So after we make sure this is perfect, we will save it and then run some code, and that will be the end of the first part. And then there's a couple of steps where we're going to utilize different types of scans. We like to go onto the Epic folders and the procedure notes where they have our, I guess, like reconstructed 3D view of the brain, and they have the electrodes labeled. So we'll take a look at that in the next part. And that is where we're going to pick out which electrodes we want um, from the brain and then put that into our POM registration file. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of the CT again. It's just saved out. Reopen it one last time, make sure it looks absolutely perfect. And then we should be good to go with our coding. So saved as CT, and now we should reopen it with the same coordinates. Okay. So I'm going to click on this cursor again, and then just browse through, make sure it looks good, which it definitely does. I think that looks great. Going all the way through. You can even look at the other scans. If it's helpful, you can also toggle on and off the CT and see how it fits. Looks quite good. Oh, toggle it back on. And let's move it forward a little bit. I think once you see the scans a couple of times, it starts to make a lot of sense. In the first couple of tries, it might be a little difficult to see the landmarks that you want, but definitely with practice, it'll be good. So here we are again, if you wanted to toggle on and off, see how it fits perfectly around. There's like a little section here that I'm looking at, see how it's covered on and off. So that is what we use. See how these fit into the little sockets here. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So we've saved it, but I'm going to move it to another folder now called CT. And this is the one I'm happy with. So I'm going to move this right into here. Okay, great. So now we're going to move on to the next portion, which is getting our coding. So we're going to type in a couple of things from our script into the MNE Python terminal, and that will be the last step. So wait for that to open up. And these coding steps are all right here. So whenever you need to refer back, they are here for you. And here we are with our MNE terminal. Going to type in everything here in order. So going to wait for that to load. My Python. And then we're going to CD into our image pipe tools folder, which is under this path right here. So GitHub image pipe. I think we have it under these folders. So here's our image pipe script, and then enter. Okay, next is, sorry. I'm just showing you the steps in order as well on here. We're going to import our image pipe script. Ours is image pipe version 2. I think everyone should be using this one, I'm pretty sure. So that would be helpful to make sure that you have the updated version. And then once that's done, we're going to go into the subject directory, which we've outlined here in this path to our subjects folder. And the step takes a second, so we'll wait on that. Last thing is we're going to define which patient, and then we're going to prep the recon and get the recon. So those are the last two things from this step. And this is TCH 67. Make sure that that is the right patient. Oh, I forgot to do the subject directory. There we go. Okay, so now patient dot prep recon. This is going to be the step that creates our folders here. I can show you. So we've created an Alex folder and the MRI folder here. It's going to keep working. And then when we get the recon, this will take quite a long time, couple of hours. Sometimes we run it overnight. So just be patient when we get to this step. And that will start to fill in as needed the folders and new data that we need. So this will take quite a while. We're definitely not going to wait for it on this Zoom call, but we will check back in the next step and make sure that everything that we need is in the right place, and then go ahead and POM register. So that is it. I hope that was helpful, and I will see you for part 2.